Right, yeah, so supposed to be a full week in life vlog this week, but instead I am doing just a weekly summary highlights thing. Reason being, hasn't really been anything to do a proper vlog about. So yes, bit of a strange week. So I can still obviously do the fuel prices. So just to see how they're getting on. So UK Fuels, which is my Shell card, which I get through UK Fuels, is 118.32 plus the VAT, of course. And the BWOC or Block card, their own card, Control 4 Diesel, which uses the Key Fuels network, is 117.96. So it is actually marginally cheaper this week than the UK Fuels. So it's the first time it's been cheaper in UK Fuels for a few weeks at least. It's only marginally cheaper. With the VAT, that works out at 141.55 pence a litre. So last week, yeah, just to say, it's still high, isn't it? And it's gone up slightly since last week. So that's the fuel prices. Monday, as I mentioned before, I had my speed awareness course for getting caught doing 58 mile an hour in a 50 zone in a variable speed limit on one of these newfangled smart motorways. So I had the motorway speed awareness course on the Monday morning, started at 7:30, or more like 7:45, and it was done by about 10:30. So I did that, logged in, did it over Zoom. Quite a nice guy who did it, quite a funny guy. He tried to make it, a bit more interesting than thing, tried to get people involved. There's about 8 or 9 on the course, mostly in the UK, as you'd expect, but there was one lady in the south of France, and she had a lovely view behind her out of her balcony. I was thinking, what she does. But anyway, she must have been visiting the UK recently to get caught speeding. And the course was alright, to be honest. I did go into it thinking I'll get out of it what I can. It wasn't like in terms of total duress, because I just wasn't paying attention when I should have been to the speed limit changing, and it was like just setting up roadworks. It was late at night. It's like 9 o'clock. They were obviously setting up for some overnight roadworks, and it's my fault really. So yeah, glad to do that. £88 it cost me, and not even half a day, as opposed to 3 points and £90 fixed penalty points. And obviously pay my insurance more money. When it comes to time for renewal, which is due the end of this month, it'll be more money again. Yeah, just take the speed awareness. Was the obvious choice to me. Some interesting points from that. Basically, he made the point that driving on the motorway isn't as simple as it used to be, which is kind of why I got caught out. Because it used to be get on the motorway, no matter what vehicle, well, unless you're in a truck, anything up to 3.5 tons, you can do 70 mile an hour. It's the same for a van. Below 3.5 tons is a car, which it isn't on most other roads, national speed limit. But that just isn't the case anymore. So I'm kind of used on A roads and B roads, kind of used to like what's the speed limit. It's in the back of your mind. Going into town, or it's going to be dropping now to whatever, normally 30 mile an hour. When I get on the motorways, I'm still in the thing, I can drive, up to 70 unless there's like roadworks or something. But with smart motorways now it isn't, and I've got to get it into my head somehow to be switched on, paying attention to what's the speed limit like I would on an A or a B road. So that's what I took out of it, how I'm going to improve going forward. Easier said than done, because there's so many miles on a motorway, and it is quite monotonous. I think I'm a very careful driver. Rarely go over 65, really, 60, 65. I'm always keeping, looking in my mirrors where traffic is moving, spend a lot of time on the motorway. I do drive in that regard with great care, I think. But I need to take more care with regards to speed limits and what's going on smart motorways. Yeah, and that was it. I did ask him as well, what's the tolerance, as he called it, when do they do you? It's quite interesting this. He said, I asked him if the 10% plus 2 rule was true, and he says, largely speaking, yes. So that is, I got caught in a 50. They'll allow you 10% plus 2, which is 10% of 50 is obviously 5, plus 2 is 57. So I took that to mean you're okay doing 57, but he says no, that's when they start to prosecute, so they'll prosecute you from 57. I got done doing 58. So it's not a case of you're allowed to do 10 plus 2, you're strictly split. It's kind of depends how you interpret it. It's more like 10% plus 1 really. But then he made the point, it depends where you are, because it depends on a local. I got done in South Yorkshire. I don't know whether they're 10% plus 2. Apparently it's up to the chief constable in that area to decide what the tolerance is. And he mentioned in Scotland they're talking about doing it if you're 1 mile an hour over. So basically there's no tolerance. And the same in North Wales. I'm from North Wales, and they've been really hot on speeding in particular, renowned for it locally for decades. They used to have a chief constable called David Brunstrom, who was very unpopular because he really went after speeders. And to be honest with you, more people die on the motorways traffic than general other crime. So it's kind of like nobody likes it, but it's all for a reason, isn't it? Keep people safe and that. So that's the speed awareness course. Talked about longer than I thought I was going to. And then I decided I wasn't going to go out on Monday because I was starting a bit late, even though it wasn't massively later than I'd normally start, typically on a Monday. I thought I'll just do a few flex blocks in my car, have a day off from doing a van. So I did 2 flex blocks, one early afternoon, which is Amazon standard delivery, so really close together drops. Park the car, deliver 4 or 5 drops, move the car, deliver another 4 or 5 drops. You're basically doing what the guys in vans do, just doing a lot less obviously. And then I did an evening block, which is Amazon same day, which is get in the car and drive 2 or 3 minutes between each drop typically. So I did that on Monday. So 84 quid for the 2 blocks, which obviously isn't a lot of money, but it's something coming in. Got to try my new car and have a bit of fun in this. And then Tuesday, the plan was to start on the in the van on the run proper. Woke up Tuesday morning with a sore throat, feeling a bit groggy. I did the lateral flow test that day to make sure it wasn't COVID. Came back negative. I did see my sons on the weekend, and one of them did have a cold, so I think I've just caught his cold because he tested negative for COVID as well. And my brother, who I live with, who also came back up at the weekend, he's got a cold as well. So I think we both caught it off my son Josh. So yeah, thanks to him. That's kids for you, little carriers. So Tuesday, I thought I'm not going to go in the van and possibly end up tramping. I don't mind tramping. I quite like in the summer. In the winter, it's no fun, and when you're a bit under the weather, it's no fun at all. There's no thing. So I thought I'd have a day off. Did the same again, basically, on Amazon Flex. So 2 blocks, similar times, different depots. When worked out of a depot I've not done before, which is Aston B6 area Birmingham. So I've done 2 new to me Amazon Flex depots in the last few weeks, which is something new, different. Wednesday I did actually start on the run. Started looking for jobs about 9:15, so started later than I wanted to. Usual story for me in the morning. Got a job pretty quick within like 15 minutes. Got decent money-ish for it. So I was 8 miles from Summit. It was 110 miles. Got 110 quid for it, £1 a mile. Down as a medium wheelbase job. 760 kilograms, €1 pallet. And it was a company I've done a fair bit for now. They're local to me. I've been doing a fair few like outward bound loads whenever I'm starting at home. And they seem to have, it's all for their same customer, which is a company that does castings, so they're kind of like pallets, but like wooden boxes sort of pallet things. obviously cast stuff inside. I've collected from their premises probably 3 or 4 times. But lately, I'm going straight to their customer and collecting from there. And it's only WS8 or something, northish of Walsall. And a British sound there as well. And this one, I was actually went to the same pickup. The shipper's actually customer last week for a different shipper to collect on behalf of DHL. So it's a bit like, are they going to recognise me, saying, well, you were such and such last week, and now you're such and such shipper, but we didn't say anything. Could happen, does happen every now and then. So I got a job, £110. It's going to Burnley. Fort Burnley, Great Lancashire, north of Manchester. Not a good area northwest. Should be able to get a job on from there afterwards. Got up there and tipped by about 1. Feed was surprisingly quiet for the northwest, even though where I was in Burnley, I worked out like Burnley is kind of like as far north as you can go before you get to the North Pennines, and it gets very rural, and there's very little like North Pennines other than farms and tiny little villages. So it's kind of like almost being next to the sea, and a lot of your 30-mile radius catchment area is in a dead area. It's not as dead as the sea, obviously, because there's still jobs that could come up from there, but very little is going to come up from the North Pennines, like north of Burnley and stuff. But I still had like most of Manchester in my catchment area, down towards Liverpool, not actual Liverpool, but outskirts of, well, most of Liverpool really, up at Blackpool, Preston, all these places, Bury, it's even getting some of Leeds, and it just seemed really quiet to feed. I thought maybe it's just a lunchtime lull. It didn't really pick up. I did bid on some jobs. I thought, reasonable rates. It actually worked out 94 pence a mile on the way up, which is pretty decent. But I didn't get them. And it got to 5, so I've been sat there 4 hours. And I'm still not feeling 100% now on the Friday. I thought, I'm not tramping tonight if I don't get anything. I'm just going to drive home. Can't be arsed. And that's what happened. I didn't get anything, and I drove home empty from Burnley. So £110, 94 pence a mile, including getting to the collection. So 94 pence a mile to get there, then 110 miles dead, empty, all the way back to Walsall. So what's that? 40 something, low 40s pence a mile. Didn't make a profit that day, probably. Just a complete waste of time, really. If you do it working like that, it just doesn't work. You're not making any money. Trust me, if you run the numbers properly, you aren't making a living. But it's one day. And my new car, which I'm sat in now, they put 12 amps test on it before I bought it, and I had to replace the rear shock absorbers because they were leaking. But the front, when I got it, I'd driven it for a while properly, because you can't really tell properly on a test drive. Especially after I've been driving it a little while, I noticed the front suspension was terribly noisy when I was steering, so top mounts, also clunky, bangy. Looked at the shockers on it, and they looked very rusted and old. So I'd ordered parts to do that. I was going to do it on Saturday, but they'd actually turned up at a click and collect place, newsagents down the road from me, on the Wednesday. So I got all the notifications through that day where I was sat there in Burnley saying it's all arrived, and I thought, well, everything's there now for me to do the job. If I do go home empty, I'm just going to take tomorrow off and get the car done. So that's what I did. I drove home empty Wednesday, took yesterday off, replaced the front shock absorbers, front coil springs, top mount bushes, top mount bearings, and while I was there, replaced the anti-roll bar drop links, because you have to take them off anyway, and with that seized, I had to cut them off, which took forever, but kind of wish I had a grinder, but that's home mechanics for you. Got it done eventually last night, yesterday evening. So at least had a productive day. Didn't obviously earn anything yesterday, and then today I thought, right, I'll do pointless going out in a van because it's obviously still quiet. Going on the CX in the van. Don't really want to spend one day Friday. It's going to be go out and definitely come back home. Still not feeling 100%. So I thought I'd do flex again. And I booked in for one this morning in what they call the Worcester depot, which is actually Droitwich, and it was, I've noticed there's plenty of early afternoon jobs, which is the standard delivery, and there's plenty of evening jobs. And there used to be a good few months back when I used to look at more, used to be morning jobs, which is also same day or next day before 12 or whatever. You don't see many of them, but I checked it quite late last night, and there was one 8:15 from Worcester, which, like I say, is Droitwich, and it was for 3.5 hours, so it's paying 51 quid or whatever. And I thought, I'll do that. If I do that, get down there, get it done. And I also had one lined up for early afternoon, which I'm waiting to do now, which is another depot I've not picked up from before in Redditch. So I'm in Redditch now, Morrison's. I'll do the early one, and then I'll come over here and do this. I'm earning slightly more than doing the early afternoon and the evening, and I'm not doing an evening one, which is delivering in the dark. So it's just going to be better. I'm going to be home for the evening. So that was the plan. But I got down there, partly for me, because I faffing around. I had more to do in the morning than I thought I had. Partly due to traffic. It was 8:15 block, so I'm allowed to check in from 8 o'clock until 20 past. I got there at 19 minutes past 8, so I was right on the edge of my permitted lateness. And you can't check in. It knows by GPS when you're on site or you're close enough to site to say I've arrived. I got there at 19 minutes past, hit I'm arrived, and it should then go to the screen where you can scan your route code and start, scanning your parcels. But it didn't. It went to, you've missed your block. And I'm like, well, no, I was like just within the time limit. And then I sat in a queue. You have to show me driving license, so you actually are who you say you are. By the time I'd sat in that queue, it says, oh, it's definitely too late now. Sorry, there's no block for you. So I didn't get arsy with him, but I says, well, I was on site just about in time. Admittedly, I am pushing it, but, I was delayed in traffic. I didn't obviously tell him I was faffing around in the morning. But I had just made their cut-off, which is their rules of stay and play. But for some reason, the app had gone to saying I was late when I wasn't. I was just about inside. And then when I finally got through their queue and got to where you're supposed to pick up parcels, they were like, well, yeah, in the past where this has happened to me, and I've seen it countless times to others, they'll get the laptop out, they'll go in, they can modify it to say, yes, you are on site, and then they give you the parcels, end of, happy days, They get delivered, but for some reason the manager here on this shift or whatever says, oh, too late now, can't do it. And said to me, well, if we do it now, it's going to mess up our metrics and all this stuff, because it's all data-driven Amazon. They, key performance indicators and all this stuff, and that's one of them probably. And they said, well, if you do it now, it might look like you were delayed on site, and that will look bad against us, so you're not getting them. So I was a bit miffed about that, but it's not like you can do. So I did ring up help and complain, basically, put in a complaint, say, well, first of all, I was just about within my permitted lateness and it didn't allow me the app. And then the management on site were more worried about their metrics and stuff than actually, sorting out the issue, even though it was several minutes before they dealt with me, kind of thing. But that's Amazon for you. It's all data driven and metrics, and it's very hard to talk to someone anyway. So if you've got issues and that. So that's it. So I'm just going to do this one block now, which is going to be £43.50 out of the Redditch, which, as I say, I've not done before. Early afternoon one, half one collection. So that means I've earned something at least today. It's paid for my fuel and my fixed costs on the van, because even though I'm not using a van, I've still got my fixed costs. This would have been a work day in a van, so I've still got the 20 quid insurance and all other fixed costs to pay, and then I can see me tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday. I might try and do a few blocks over the weekend, if not more, just to kind of, bump the income, the takings up for the week, because it's a bit of a struggle on the CX at the moment, a bit of a waste of time. I did do the CX last week, but it was a non-vlog week, and it was half reasonable. I did just shy of £1,000 for the 5 days, tramped 3 nights, 1 at home, and my profit was about 120 a day. Pence per mile is pretty good. It's like 94 or something, might be 96. So last week wasn't half bad, and then when I finally started on it this week, went up to Burnley. It just like, I was like, what's going on here? Like, I thought it was picking up. Plan for next week, I might even do flex again Monday, and then start in the van, on the run, on the CX Tuesday to Friday. I think that's the plan for next week. So yeah, just me rambling on this week. Any comments as ever, please put them below. Please like and subscribe. Thanks. Cheers for watching.